It was raining the night he almost died. The kind of rain that didn't just fall. It crashed. Cold needles, sharp as claws, slashing sideways through the dark. Thunder cracked overhead, and the wind carried a chill that felt like grief, raw and ancient. Elena stood barefoot in the mud, cradling the limp body of a little boy against her chest. Kai. His name was Kai. His skin was ice, his breath barely there. She could hear the desperate rattling wheeze in his lungs as he fought to stay with her. She was shaking so hard she couldn't tell where her tremors ended and his began. "Stay with me, baby. Please stay with me," she whispered into his hair, her voice barely more than a breath. Her arms tightened around him, shielding him from the storm, from the world, from death itself. "You're not leaving me. Do you hear me, Kai? You are not leaving me!" Lightning flashed, illuminating the abandoned alley where she'd found him, and for a split second, she saw the blood smeared across his shirt. It didn't belong on a child. Nothing about this night did. He had no one. No pack, no name anyone had spoken out loud until she'd given him one. And God's help her, she would not lose him. But in that moment, standing there, soaked, broken, pleading with the sky, it hit her. The memory she fought hardest to forget. The one that carved a hole in her chest and left it bleeding for years. 3 years ago. Fate had shown her just how cruel it could be. It hadn't been raining that day. No, that day the sun had been too bright, too blinding, as if the sky was mocking her with its warmth. She'd worn her best dress, pressed her hair flat, made herself small, careful, polite, like all good Omegas did when walking among power. The Silver Pine Northridge Treaty signing was the most important event of the decade. 2 dominant packs joining forces under one alpha king, Marcus Steele. He was more myth than man. Ruthless, regal, revered, and untouchable. Elena had been assigned to serve refreshments, keep to the edges, avoid eye contact. Omegas weren't meant to be noticed, but fate noticed her. And it used Marcus Steele to do it. She hadn't meant to brush his hand. It had been an accident, passing him a folder of treaty documents, head down, heart steady, fingers trembling only slightly. Their skin met for the briefest second. And then, snap. Not soft, not warm. It hit like a thunderclap. Her knees nearly buckled from the force of it. His hand jerked back like he'd touched fire. His eyes, those famously unreadable flint-gray eyes, lit up gold, wolf gold. The room went dead silent. Every alpha, every beta, every ranked wolf in that room felt it. A mate bond, raw, unmistakable. Her wolf surged to the surface, howling with recognition. "Home!" she cried. "Mine!" But Elena didn't dare move, because the whispers were already starting. An Omega? No, it can't be. The Alpha King? With her? She could feel the heat rising in her chest, her cheeks burning with shame before anyone even said her name out loud. Marcus stared at her like she was a puzzle he hated knowing the answer to. He stepped forward, gripped her arm. Not hard, not gentle, just enough to pull her from the room without a word. Down the corridor, into a private chamber. The door closed behind them. She expected him to scream, to demand an explanation, to deny it outright. Instead, he just stood there, staring, breathing like he couldn't catch his breath. She didn't move. His hand reached out, hesitated, then cupped her face. His thumb brushed beneath her eye. And in a voice so quiet she almost didn't hear it, she whispered, "You feel it too." That was when his beta walked in. Jackson, tall, broad, cold eyes, always watching. "My king," he said stiffly. "The council is waiting. This situation needs addressing." And just like that, the warmth vanished from Marcus's eyes. He pulled his hand back like she was poison. "There is no situation," he said, his voice distant. "This is a mistake." Her heart cracked. He turned and led her back into the grand hall. The air was thick with tension. She could barely walk. He didn't look at her, didn't explain. He just raised his voice, loud enough for every wolf in the chamber to hear. "I, Marcus Steele, Alpha King of the Northern Packs, reject you, Elena Cross, as my mate and future Luna. An Omega cannot stand beside a king." No ceremony, no kindness, just rejection, brutal and cold. The bond between them shattered, and it hurt. It wasn't metaphorical, it was physical. Like her ribcage split open, like her soul got torn in half, like her wolf was clawing from the inside out, screaming as the connection was severed. She collapsed. Not one person moved to help her, not her alpha, not her father. They all just watched, some in pity, some in disgust. And Marcus, he walked away without so much as a glance. That night, her family packed her bags for her. "You've embarrassed us enough," her father spat. She lost her job at the pack house the next morning. Rejected Omegas weren't welcome in the administrative corps. She moved to the outer district, into a crumbling apartment above a free clinic. The only place that would hire her was the clinic itself, offering healing to wolves too broken or too poor to be seen by anyone else. She took it, because survival was her only choice. She learned how to mend bones, soothe pain, stitch flesh and pride alike. But nothing she did could fix the ache in her own chest. Every night, she touched the place on her neck where a mating mark should have been, and every night, her wolf whimpered inside her. 6 months. That's how long it took for the world to forget her. 6 months since Marcus tore her apart in front of the packs. 6 months since the bond shattered in her chest like glass, leaving splinters she still couldn't dig out. 6 months since she started pretending that pain didn't live in her ribs. The rain hadn't stopped since morning. Low gray clouds pressed against the clinic windows, and the world outside felt hollow, wet, washed out, tired. Elena sat at the edge of the exam table, wrapping a child's sprained ankle, her fingers steady even though the voice on the radio was tearing her apart. And in other news, Alpha King Marcus Steele is set to marry Victoria Thorne this Saturday. The union between Northridge and Bloodfang packs has long been rumored, and Victoria, an alpha-born warrior decorated twice in the Southern Front and daughter of High Alpha Thorne, is widely regarded as the ideal Luna for the Northern Territories. Ideal. Elena's hands didn't stop moving. She nodded gently to the boy, whispered something about resting, and let the nurse take over. Behind her, one of the elderly Omegas waiting in the corner tilted her head. "You okay, dear?" Elena smiled, a tiny practiced thing. "I'm fine. I'm always fine." But her wolf whimpered low in her chest, curled tighter into that empty space inside her where a bond used to live. Later that night, she tried not to look. She really did. But it was everywhere. On the clinic TV, in the news feed that played above the pharmacy counter, on the cover of every grocery flyer. Marcus and Victoria. They looked like royalty. Victoria was everything an Alpha Luna was supposed to be. Tall, silver blonde, armored in grace and perfection. Her presence demanded silence. Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. And Marcus, God's Marcus. He was still beautiful in that cold, distant way, still taller than every other man in the room. Still dressed like power, but his eyes were blank. He moved like he was sleepwalking through a performance, his hand on Victoria's waist like it had been placed there for the cameras. He looked like a ghost of the wolf she used to know. "They look perfect together, don't they?" one of the nurses said dreamily. Elena didn't look away from the screen. "Perfect isn't the same as right." Nobody replied. She turned off the monitor before the vows began. The outer district clinic was nothing like the main pack hospital. No rank-based wings, No pristine equipment, just a handful of rooms, flickering lights, and shelves held up by mismatched nails. But to the ones who came here, it was the only safe place left. Rogue wolves, omegas without names, children from shattered families. Elena saw them all, and she never turned anyone away. They called her our angel. Not because she was soft, because she stayed, because she showed up when no one else would. She worked through fevers, through blackouts, through months when there wasn't enough antiseptic to go around. She used herbs her grandmother taught her to gather, boiled bandages in kettles, mixed antibiotic salves from scraps. She learned to make do with nothing, and still save lives. One night, a toddler came in burning up with infection, skin pale, lips cracked. They didn't have the meds he needed. But Elena sat with him all night, cooling his fever with ice packs and willow bark, and whispered stories about moonlight and wolves who never gave up. By morning, he was breathing steady. That's who she became, without a bond, without a rank, without a future. And still, her wolf mourned. Quietly, constantly. Especially the day the birth was announced. She didn't want to know. But the news found her, like it always did. Crown Prince Kai Steele has been born to Alpha King Marcus and Luna Victoria. There were celebrations across all 4 territories, fireworks, howls, champagne in the council halls. He was perfect, they said. Strong lungs, thick dark hair, born under a full moon. But the rumors trickled into the clinic, one whisper at a time. They say the Luna was cold during delivery. Refused to hold him at first. The king looked worried. No one said it out loud, but it floated in the air, unsaid. She didn't want him, not really. Elena listened, said nothing. But that night, when she laid on the thin mattress in her tiny apartment above the clinic, her hand drifted to her belly. Her wolf stirred for the first time in weeks. "Pup," she whispered. "Should have been ours." Elena didn't cry. She hadn't in years. But that night, she stayed awake until morning, eyes fixed on the ceiling, heart cracking all over again. 3 years passed. The hurt dulled, but never disappeared. She aged a little, 26 now, wiser, quieter, more guarded. She knew how to smile without meaning it, how to heal without hoping, how to live without looking back. The outer district knew her name now, not just the broken ones. Even the warriors sometimes came, limping in with wounds they didn't want on official record. Still, she was alone. No new bond, no second chance, no miracle. She didn't expect one. The storm started at sunset. Thunder rolled in like a warning. The wind howled through the alleyways, rattling the windows of the clinic. Elena was finishing her shift, sipping weak tea, reviewing a chart with a broken pen. It was her birthday. She hadn't told anyone. There was no point. Then the radio cracked. All medical personnel, emergency on Route 9, abandoned child, critical condition, repeat, child abandoned, vital signs unstable, immediate response requested. She was on her feet before the message ended. No hesitation, no questions. She grabbed the emergency kit from behind the counter, yanked her coat off the hook, and ran into the night. Because saving children was what she did. Because someone had to. Because part of her had been waiting for this storm her entire life. And because, though she didn't know it yet, that call would destroy and rebuild everything she thought she knew. She didn't remember the drive, only the sirens in her chest. The rain pounded harder as Elena turned off the main road. Tires skidding in the mud. Route 9 was a stretch of nothing, dense woods, no streetlights, barely maintained. Her headlights struggled to cut through the storm, slicing only shadows. And then she saw it. A figure. Small, crumpled, half submerged in the ditch. She slammed the brakes. The world stilled. Wind howled, trees bent. Her door flew open, slamming into the wind as she sprinted toward the shape. Knees hit mud, hands trembling. A child, a boy, maybe 3, maybe 4. Soaked to the bone, lips blue, shirt torn, one shoe missing. His chest barely moved. Elena dropped the med bag and scooped him into her arms. He was so light. Too light. Hey, no, no, no. You stay with me, she murmured, brushing the wet curls from his forehead. You hear me? You're going to be okay. I've got you. The wind ripped the words from her mouth. But she said them again anyway. Blood. There was blood on his neck. Not a cut, an injection mark. Small, deliberate, faint bruising at his wrists. No crash, no accident. This wasn't a rescue, this was a disposal. She wrapped him in her coat, shielding him from the rain with her body as she pressed a stethoscope to his chest. Faint heartbeat, barely there. Come on, little wolf, she whispered. Stay with me, just a little longer. Her wolf rose like a tidal wave inside her, teeth bared, growling. Not in warning, in possession. Hours. Elena's breath hitched. She paused, trembling. Pup, her wolf whispered, low, certain. Mourning and recognition tangled in one word. Pup. The ambulance arrived 10 minutes later. She never let go of him. He made it through the night. Barely. They transferred him to the clinics. She refused the main pack hospital. Too many eyes, too many names. This boy needed protection, not protocol. Elena stayed beside him the entire time. IV, fluids, antivirals, hypothermia treatment. No time to think, no room to break down. Not until the second night, when he finally opened his eyes. They were golden, bright, flickering, glowing, alpha eyes. But it wasn't just that. It was the shape of his mouth, the tilt of his brow, the impossible familiarity of the way he looked at her, confused and calm and afraid all at once. It was like being struck again by the bond, only this time, it wasn't desire, it was devotion. His tiny fingers curled around hers. He didn't speak, just stared, silent, watchful. Hey, she said softly, brushing a damp lock from his forehead. I'm Elena. I'm here. You're safe. He blinked once, then quietly, almost imperceptibly, he whispered, Mama? Her heart cracked in two, not because he called her that, but because in that moment, every instinct in her body said he was right. The next day, the rumors started. Whispers in the outer district. A child missing. A Luna seen leaving the palace grounds late at night. Unmarked car. No guards. By morning, a report surfaced on a rogue channel. The crown prince is gravely ill. The royal family asks for privacy. No photos, no updates, no search, no name. But Elena knew. She'd seen Marcus's eyes. She remembered the curve of his jaw. She had it memorized. This boy, Kai, had that same jaw, that same gravity. This wasn't just a child. This was his child. The one her wolf already knew belonged to them. Elena didn't tell anyone. She called him Kai. Not because she knew that was his name, but because it was the only name that felt right when he laid his head against her chest and sighed like he'd finally found home. He didn't speak much, slept most days, but when he looked at her, it wasn't blank. It was trust. And her wolf curled around him like she'd been waiting for him since the moment the bond shattered. Every time she tried to rationalize it, something pulled her back. That mark on his neck, it hadn't been medical. It had been silencing. A sedative, maybe. Something to keep him docile, easy to leave behind. The palace wasn't looking for him, because the palace had left him, and the Luna, Victoria, the beautiful, cold, perfect Luna, hadn't just failed to hold her child when he was born. She'd tried to erase him. 3 days passed. Elena worked double shifts to cover the eyes watching her. Every time someone asked about the boy, she lied. Found him in the woods. No name, no ID, we're running tests. He's not ready to be moved. The truth clanged in her throat. She watched him sleep with one hand curled over his chest, like he was protecting something sacred. Sometimes he cried in his sleep. But it wasn't words, it was instinct, a deep, keening sound that no child should ever make. Elena didn't cry, but she sat by his bedside night after night, her hand in his, and whispered the things no one had ever whispered to her. You're safe. You're wanted. You're not broken. You are so, so loved. And her wolf, every time, echoed the last part. Hours. On the 7th day, he woke up screaming, not words, just terror. Elena was there in seconds, wrapping him in her arms, rocking him slowly, whispering against his hair as he clung to her like a lifeline. "Mama," he sobbed again, and this time she didn't correct him, she just held him tighter, because she knew this wasn't fate, this wasn't some twisted rewrite of what was stolen from her. This was a choice, her choice. He'd been thrown away, but she would never let go. Not again, never again. The palace was quiet, too quiet. Marcus stood in the center of the hall where Kai's laughter used to echo, brief, fleeting, always earned. Tonight, there was only stillness, polished stone, gilded portraits, chandeliers that caught no one's attention but his. He was alone. He always had been. But tonight, it felt different. Tonight, the silence pressed against him like a weight. A chill snaked down his spine, sharp and sudden. Something was wrong. He moved faster than usual, his boots echoing down the corridor as he turned toward the nursery. 2 guards stood outside the door, stiff and unreadable. His wolf stirred uneasily. "Where is my son?" he asked. The guards looked at each other. One opened the door. The room was empty. The crib, unmade. The blanket folded too neatly. There was no sign of struggle, no note, just absence. Marcus's chest went tight, too tight. He turned. "Where is the Luna?" No one answered. Victoria was in the sunroom, drinking white wine with her sister, draped across a velvet chair like a statue carved from ice. Her silver blonde hair glinted under the chandelier. She didn't stand when he entered. "Where is Kai?" he asked, voice low. She blinked at him. "I gave the nurse the night off. He was asleep when I left him. And now he's gone." She tilted her head, unbothered. "He was restless. He gets that from you. This isn't a game, Victoria. You were the last one to see him." "I'm the Luna," she said simply. "Not the nursemaid." Something sharp cracked inside his chest. "You said you'd try," he said. "You said you'd make this work." "I said I'd give you a name, an heir. I gave you both." Her eyes were pale, unfeeling. "He's not a burden," Marcus said, trying to control the growl in his throat. "He's our son." "No," she said softly. "He's your mistake." He didn't remember shouting, didn't remember slamming his hand against the wall hard enough to crack plaster, didn't remember the guards dragging Victoria's sister out as she laughed, sipping her wine like this was just another dinner party gone cold. But he remembered the ache in his chest as he searched every room, every hallway, every corridor in the palace that night. No sign of Kai, no scent, no trail. Whoever took him knew how to cover their tracks. Or someone had helped them. By sunrise, the palace was locked down. The Alpha Council was notified. Search teams were deployed. But Marcus already knew what they would find. Nothing. Not because the child had vanished into the dark, but because someone had buried him in silence. His wolf paced beneath his skin, furious and panicked. They hadn't always agreed, but when it came to Kai, they were united. Mine. Ours. He hadn't wanted a child, not this way. He hadn't wanted a Luna who looked at their pup like he was broken. But the moment he'd held Kai, small, warm, screaming under the full moon, he'd known. It wasn't just duty anymore. It was love, and now he was gone. They didn't announce it publicly. The council insisted on controlling the narrative, said the people would panic, that enemies would move. So Marcus stood on the palace balcony that evening and smiled for the cameras. Told them the prince was unwell, that the Luna was resting, that the family was strong. Then he went back inside and shattered the whiskey decanter against the wall. For 3 days, there was no word, no ransom, no lead, no hope. Until the report came in. A child had been found on Route 9, unconscious, injured, male, approximately 3 or 4 years old. No identification, no family, found by a rogue district medic. He demanded the footage. Security camera. Grainy. But it was enough. The medic bent over the boy, cradling him to her chest. Dark hair soaked with rain, mouth trembling, eyes filled with fire. Elena. His heart stopped. She was supposed to be gone. Erased. Banished to the fringes of memory. He hadn't said her name in years. But his wolf never forgot. Mate. The word still stung, still bled. And there she was, holding his son like he was the most precious thing in the world. Not a burden, not an heir. Just a boy. Just hers. He closed the screen slowly, eyes burning. There was no hesitation in her movements, no fear. She'd risked herself for that child, for his child. The bond they'd severed years ago hadn't left her kind, or cold. It had left her full of quiet fury and infinite strength. He had done everything right. He followed the rules, married the Luna the council approved, produced the heir they demanded, and he'd lost them both anyway. But Elena, she had nothing, and somehow she had found his son. And kept him alive. The realization landed like thunder in his chest. He should have never let her go. The knock came just after nightfall. 3 short raps. No thunder. No urgency. Just finality. Elena looked up from the bed where Kai slept, his little chest rising and falling beneath the blanket she'd wrapped him in. The same one she'd used when he arrived, trembling and barely alive. Her heart tripped. Something primal stirred inside her. The air changed. Her wolf lifted her head, ears up, still. Danger, she whispered. No. Familiar. Elena stood slowly, pulled on her jacket, checked Kai's IV one last time. Then she walked out of the room and closed the door behind her like it was a fortress. The clinic hallway was quiet, only the storm whispering at the windows. She unlocked the front door, and there he was, Marcus, standing in the rain like he was carved out of it, coat soaked, hair plastered to his forehead, eyes unreadable, older, harsher, beautiful in a way that hurt more than it ever helped. She didn't speak, neither did he. For a moment, they just stood there. 2 wolves staring across the wreckage of everything they once were. Then, Elena, he said low and rough, like her name still cost him something. She stepped into the doorway, blocking his view of the clinic behind her. You're not coming in. His jaw tightened. I need to see the boy. You lost that right when you left him in a ditch. His eyes flickered. I didn't. No? Her voice was ice. Because he had a needle mark in his neck, no shoes, and no guards. That wasn't an accident, Marcus. That was abandonment. I didn't know. He stepped forward. She stepped back. The door remained between them. You always were good at pretending not to know, she said quietly. You pretended not to feel the bond, pretended I didn't exist, Pretended like breaking me in front of the council was some kind of noble act. He didn't flinch, but something behind his eyes cracked. I was wrong, he said. She laughed once, sharp, tired. No, you were a king. Kings don't get to be wrong. Elena, why are you here? His silence answered her. She nodded. Someone finally told you where your son was. His eyes met hers then, full, unshielded. Pain, regret, something else, something raw and pleading. Her wolf watched him silently from the dark corners of her chest. Not yet, she whispered. Not again. I came to thank you, Marcus said at last, and to bring him home. She stiffened. He is home. Marcus blinked. Rain dripped from his hair, traced the edge of his cheek. Elena. He's mine. Her voice dropped. No, she said. He was yours, and you let someone throw him away. He didn't respond, didn't argue, didn't step inside, but his voice was lower now, barely above the rain. I didn't know. I swear to you, I didn't know what she did. I thought he was with a nurse or in the quarters. No one told me, and when I found out, when I saw you holding him, his voice cracked. I realized what I'd done, what I threw away. Elena's breath hitched, not because of the words, but because she believed him, and she didn't want to. I kept him alive, she said. Not your guards, not your court, me. I know. He knows my voice. I know. He calls me Mama. That hit him like a blade. He looked away. She didn't stop. He reaches for me in his sleep. He cries when I leave the room. He trusts me, Marcus. His voice broke. So do I. Elena's heart stuttered, and then, behind her, a soft sound, a shuffle, a child's breath. She turned, and Kai was there in the hallway, rubbing his eyes, blanket trailing behind him. Hey, she whispered, kneeling. It's okay. Go back to bed, sweetheart. But he didn't. He looked past her, to the man standing in the doorway. Marcus went still. Their eyes met. Gold and gold, the same. Recognition swept over both of them like fire. Marcus dropped to one knee, slowly, not breathing. Kai stepped closer. No fear, just curiosity. Elena's heart ached. Hi, Marcus said softly. He didn't finish, because Kai spoke first. You're sad, Marcus blinked. Kai tilted his head. Mama said sad people carry thunder in their chest. Elena swallowed hard. Marcus looked up at her, and she knew in that moment everything had changed. Not because he was the Alpha King, not because he had power or name or bloodline, but because the boy they both loved had spoken truth. And thunder lived in both of them. The storm passed sometime in the night, but the silence it left behind was heavier than thunder. Elena sat on the old clinic couch, arms wrapped around her knees, the blanket still warm from Kai's body. He had fallen back asleep an hour ago, curled up beside her, one hand fisted in her shirt like he was afraid she'd disappear if he let go. Across the room, Marcus hadn't moved. He stood near the window, staring out into the gray morning like he was watching for ghosts. The space between them stretched like old scars. Too much history to name, too much hurt to forget. She broke the silence first. Why didn't you fight for me? He didn't turn around. Because I was a coward. The honesty cut deeper than any excuse. Elena blinked, surprised. Not by the confession, but by how much it hurt to hear it. He finally looked at her, and in that moment, he didn't look like a king. He looked like a man who had nothing left. I was raised to believe duty came first, he said quietly. That mating bonds were optional. That love was weakness. That power came before everything, even happiness. She didn't interrupt. He wasn't telling her anything she hadn't already lived through. When I felt the bond with you, he continued, I thought it was a test, a glitch. You were everything I wasn't prepared for. An omega. Quiet, gentle, not political, not chosen, just mine. And I didn't know how to want something that didn't come with approval. Elena's voice was flat. So you rejected it. I destroyed it, he corrected, in front of everyone. And I've regretted it every day since. Her wolf shifted inside her, listening, not forgiving. She studied him. There was no crown on his head, no guards at his back, just a man soaked in failure. What do you want, Marcus? He looked at her, really looked, and for a moment she saw the boy beneath the title, the one who'd kissed her once under moonlight and whispered that she was different, the one who'd meant it. I want to fix what I broke. She shook her head slowly. You can't. I know. So what are you really asking? Marcus stepped forward, not close, just enough that she could see the cracks in him. Let me stay, just for a while. Let me help. Let me be near him. No. The word came from the doorway. Kai, barefoot, hair a mess, blanket dragging behind him like armor. Marcus turned, startled. Kai didn't flinch. I don't know you, the boy said simply. But I know her. Elena's breath caught. Marcus knelt. You're right, he said gently. You don't know me, and I don't deserve to know you, but I want to. Kai narrowed his eyes. You made her sad. Marcus closed his eyes. Yes, I did. Did you say sorry? He nodded. I'm saying it now. Kai considered that. Then you can stay, but only if Mama says yes. Elena swallowed. Marcus looked up at her, not pleading, just waiting. It was the first time he'd ever done that, waited on her, respected her power. I don't trust you, she said. I don't expect you to. You might scare him. I'll leave if I do. She exhaled slowly. Her heartbeat was too loud. You can have the cot in the back, she said finally. One night. That's it. Marcus nodded once, like it was the only mercy he'd ever been offered. Kai walked past him and curled back into the couch. And as Marcus turned away, Elena saw something in his shoulders that hadn't been there before. Not defeat, not relief, just grief. And the smallest flicker of hope. The rain had stopped, but the air between them hadn't cleared. Marcus sat at the edge of the cot, elbows on his knees, hands clasped too tight. The clinic light above him flickered faintly, humming like it could feel the tension too. Across the hall, Elena stood at the sink washing Kai's breakfast bowl, her movements calm but practiced. She could feel Marcus's presence behind her. Not loud, not aggressive, just there. And it was too much. The way the air shifted when he entered a room. The way her wolf bristled, confused, drawn, afraid. The way he looked at Kai like he'd already broken him and was praying for a second chance. She kept her hands busy. It was the only way to stay steady. Kai sat on the floor near the window, coloring on the back of an old intake form with the stub of a blue crayon. He hummed softly, quietly, like he was building a shield out of melody. And maybe he was. Elena dried the bowl, turned, and froze. Marcus was already watching her. He looked tired. The kind of tired that didn't come from sleepless nights, but from years of carrying the wrong burdens. Say it, she muttered, leaning against the counter. He blinked. Say what? Whatever you're dying to ask. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then finally, is he happy? Elena's throat tightened. He laughs in his sleep, she said. He hides his vegetables under the radiator. He names stray cats after stars. He's never been more than 3 feet away from me for longer than an hour. She didn't add, because he doesn't know if I'll come back. Marcus nodded slowly. I think about what he's missed. Because of me. She stepped forward once, arms folded. He's missed a cold palace, a mother who didn't want him, and a father who thought duty was more important than love. Her voice didn't shake, but something inside her did. Marcus's eyes didn't leave hers. And what about what I missed? She didn't answer, because the words were too sharp. She'd cried those tears 3 years ago, when he rejected her in front of the world like she was nothing. She wasn't going to weep again. So instead, she turned toward the door where Kai was still humming. Bedtime, sweetheart. Kai looked up, blinked, and grinned. A tiny, lopsided smile that always hit her heart sideways. He ran to her, arms up. She lifted him easily, like breath, like home. Marcus watched the way Kai's head fit against her shoulder, the way her arms curled around him without thought, the way the boy's wolf, small and still forming, purred softly beneath his skin. It wasn't just comfort, it was connection. It was pack. Want a story? Kai mumbled sleepily. Elena smiled. I'll tell you the one about the moon bear again, he grinned. But skip the sad part. I always do. As she carried him past Marcus, the child reached out, fingers brushing his sleeve. You can listen too, Kai said. Marcus went still. I'd like that, he whispered. And as Elena walked down the hall, something in the air shifted, not with thunder, but with memory. That night, long after Kai had drifted into dreams and the clinic had gone silent, Elena stepped outside. The moon was high. Not full, not yet, but bright enough to turn the world silver. She stood on the porch, arms around herself, breathing in the scent of pine and damp earth. Behind her, the door creaked. She didn't need to turn. I thought you'd be asleep, she said. I couldn't, Marcus replied, voice low. The quiet stretched between them, familiar and dangerous. She didn't ask him to leave, didn't tell him to stay. You used to stand like that, he said suddenly. Back when you worked the treaty room, when no one was watching you, just breathing like the world never saw you. She turned her head slightly. It didn't. I did. Something inside her cracked. You never acted like it. I know. Silence. He moved closer, not enough to touch, just enough for her wolf to rise, alert. Elena, he said softly, when I rejected you, I felt it too. The pain, the break, the loss. I just hid it better. She turned toward him slowly, eyes shining. Don't mistake survival for healing, she said. You hurt me, and then you disappeared, and now you want to act like there's something still between us? Marcus didn't flinch, but he stepped closer. And the bond, the one they'd both thought broken, stirred. A flicker, a whisper. Her wolf sat up, not whole, not restored, but aware. Of him, of them. Of something that wasn't dead after all. I don't want to rewrite the past, Marcus said. I want to build something better. With me? She asked. He hesitated, then nodded. With both of you. She closed her eyes. Because even if the bond was fractured, even if her heart had scars where he used to live, even if she didn't trust him, couldn't forgive him, didn't know if she ever would, she still felt him. And that was the cruelest part of fate. The wolf never truly forgets. The palace had been too quiet. For 3 days, not a single official asked where the crown prince was. Not one camera crew had noticed his absence. No servant dared whisper the truth aloud. Because in the palace, Fear wore perfume and smiled through perfect teeth. Victoria sat at her vanity, brushing her hair with slow, deliberate strokes. Her reflection stared back, flawless, composed, untouched by storms or rumors. But inside, she was fire, controlled, contained, until now. The knock came at the exact wrong moment. "Enter," she said, voice like cracked glass. Beta Jackson stepped in. His mouth was tight, his eyes unreadable. She didn't rise, didn't stop brushing. "I assume this isn't a social call." He hesitated. "We've confirmed it." Her hand stilled. He continued. "The child on Route 9. It was Prince Kai." The brush dropped. "And?" "He's alive." Silence, then. "Where?" Jackson didn't answer immediately. So she stood. Not rushed, not rattled, but slowly, like a blade being unsheathed. "Where is my son, Jackson?" He swallowed. "With Elena Cross, the Omega you rejected. He's been with her for almost a week." The silence in the room turned sharp enough to bleed. "That woman," Victoria said softly, "is a ghost. She should have stayed that way." Jackson didn't flinch. He knew better than to speak when she was like this. "He calls her Mama." Something cold and ancient slid into Victoria's gaze. "Of course he does," she whispered. "Omegas always cling to what isn't theirs." She turned toward the window, the high towers of Northridge glittering in the distance. "She stole him." "No," Jackson said carefully. "She saved him." Victoria's head snapped around. Her voice dropped into a snarl. "She stole him." Marcus didn't wait to be summoned. He felt it the moment her power shifted, like a snake coiling beneath the surface of silk. By the time he entered the sunroom, Victoria was pacing, barefoot, unmade, dangerous. "You knew," she hissed, before he could speak. "You knew he was alive and you didn't tell me." He didn't deny it. She closed the distance in seconds. "Do you have any idea what this looks like?" she spat. "Our heir, in the arms of a rejected Omega. She's more mother to him than you ever were." The words were out before he could stop them. Victoria recoiled like she'd been slapped, but only for a second. Then she smiled. Not warmth. Weapon. "I warned you," she said, voice velvet over poison. "I told you what would happen if you ever humiliated me. This isn't about you. It is always about me." Her calm shattered. "You were nothing before me. Do you remember that? A puppet prince with a broken pack? My name gave you legitimacy. My father's army gave you peace. I gave you Kai." "You gave me silence," he growled. "You gave me distance. You wouldn't even hold him the day he was born." She crossed her arms. "Because he was yours, not mine." Marcus's jaw clenched. "And now?" she asked. "What's your plan? Bring your little Omega back into the palace? Let her parade around like a Luna in heat? Raise our son in the dirt with her mutt morality?" "If she were Luna," he said, voice low and dangerous, "this palace wouldn't be rotting from the inside." Her hand twitched. Not quite a slap, not quite restraint, just the urge. "You've made your choice, then." He didn't answer. "You think the council will protect you," she said. "They chose me. I'm the one with rank, lineage, bloodline. If you think they'll let you toss that away for some back-alley Omega, I'm not asking for their permission." She laughed. Hollow, sharp. "You always were such a fool for sentiment." Then softly, cruelly, "You really think that boy will love you after what you let happen to him?" Marcus's hands curled into fists. "I'll make sure of it," Victoria whispered. "I'll bury her, legally, politically, publicly. I'll remind every pack what happens to Omegas who forget their place." He stepped forward once. She froze. "I'll say this once," he said low. "Come near her, or him again, And you'll see what happens to Lunas who mistake cruelty for power. She smiled again. And this time, it was all teeth. Marcus left the palace that night. No guards, no protocol. Just a father driving toward the only place his son had ever felt safe. And the only woman he'd ever truly belonged to. Not because of fate, not because of bond, but because she stayed when everyone else left. And now, he would stay too. He returned just after dusk. No crown. No guards, no announcement. Just the sound of his boots on the clinic porch and the weight of the world in his chest. Elena felt him before she saw him. That tether, cut and buried years ago, stirred in her bones like it remembered something her mind refused to name. She didn't move, didn't open the door, didn't call for him. If he wanted to come in, he'd have to earn it. Not with rank, not with words, but with truth. The knock was soft, once, twice, then silence. She opened the door. Marcus stood there in the dark. His coat was soaked again, his eyes rimmed with exhaustion. But he didn't look broken this time. He looked decided. Elena crossed her arms. You said one night. I know. You left. I had to. To her? To end it. That made her pause. What? He stepped forward, voice low. I ended it. The contract. The appearances. The alliance. I'm done pretending. You walked away from the Luna? I walked toward you. Her chest tightened. Marcus's voice didn't rise, didn't plead. It just spoke. For 3 years I ruled beside someone who looked right and felt wrong. And in that time, I forgot what real connection feels like. Until I saw you hold him. Elena swallowed. Marcus continued. You didn't just keep Kai alive. You gave him a home, a heart. You gave him you, and I've never seen anything more sacred. Stop, she whispered. But he didn't. I'm not here as a king. I'm not here for forgiveness. I'm here to say, I choose you. She turned away, the words burning like salt on open wounds. You chose power, she said. You chose reputation. You left me bleeding on the floor and you didn't look back. I know, he said again. And now you want to come back? Just like that? He stepped closer. Not like that. Like this. He knelt, right there on the clinic porch, in the mud, in the cold, in front of the woman he once rejected, and said nothing. No speech, no apology, just surrender. Kai's tiny voice broke the moment. Why's he on the ground? Elena turned. Kai stood at the door, pajama shirt crooked, thumb in his mouth. Marcus looked up at him and smiled. Because sometimes, he said, when you break something important, you have to show you're ready to fix it. Kai tilted his head, then walked outside. He stood in front of Marcus, reached up, and touched his face. Marcus didn't move. Kai whispered, You smell better now. Marcus laughed softly. Elena's eyes burned. Are you staying? Kai asked. Marcus looked to Elena. I want to. Elena knelt beside them both, looked at Marcus, searched his face, and found no lies, only a man stripped of armor, and a wolf who finally understood what a mate was meant to be. She reached out, touched his hand, and the moment her fingers met his, something bloomed, quiet, steady, undeniable, not a bond snapping into place, but a bond awakening, soft, earned, sacred. Kai leaned into her side, yawned, and whispered, We can be a pack now. And for the first time in 3 years, her wolf didn't whimper. She purred.